Okay, so now we're done with mobile apps. Let's talk about cloud computing. What is cloud computing? It's actually an abstract way of looking at server and software and platforms that are hosted on a remote server or service. So anytime you're using a mobile app or a website that's really connecting to an online service, you're kind of using cloud computing. So it's basically running these services and software on a cloud service, which is online. You pay and run on demand as opposed to pre-arranged setup that is difficult to change. And basically cloud computing reflects server architecture evolution over the past few years, where you used to have to buy and build and deploy hardware yourself. You now have the choice of doing it through software with the click of a button. So cloud computing basically refers to hosting your application or servers or anything on this nebulous thing called the cloud, which is basically an online service that you never see. You don't have to touch and feel it. It's just out there. The cloud could be on an external vendor such as Amazon or Google or Salesforce, etc., or it could be internal. You could be running it on your own servers, or it's a hybrid, so you run some things on your own servers and some with an external vendor. There's three main types of cloud computing services based on services, right? So if you differentiate cloud computing based on services, there's three main types. One is called IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, where you set up servers and machines through the cloud. There's no physical setup of machines neither. You don't need to buy hardware. You don't need to set it up on a rack. You don't need to go in and provision it somewhere. You just rent out servers from the internet and you use them. There's PaaS, which is platform as a service. So here you don't even deal with the concept of servers. You have an object out there and you deploy your software. So you build your software and you say deploy it to my PaaS, and that automatically handles all the hardware. So if you have a lot of traffic, it'll automatically scale up the hardware to meet your needs. You simply focus on deploying the software, and the PaaS takes care of all the hardware that you need. So at this point with PaaS, you don't even worry about server setup. You simply focus on writing code, and PaaS takes care of it for you. Then there is SaaS, which is software as a service. So this is where the software is already provided by a third-party vendor. So there's actually a company out there that's built the entire software, and it's put up online and it's provided through the third-party vendor. You just need to log in and use the system. So you don't have to do anything at all except create user accounts and etc. and actually start to use the system. So there's also three types of cloud computing based on where it is hosted. One is the public cloud, where you're running on a third-party provider on their premises. So you pay that third-party provider and use their IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS services. So typically you contract with Amazon or Google or Microsoft, and you are running your software or your servers on their hardware. So it's called public because you don't control the hardware, but you rent them out from your public cloud provider. There's private, where you're running all these on your company's premises. You still need to install and deploy your own hardware. So you're doing this from ground up. So where with public, you simply click a button and get your servers. With private, you're actually building out your own hardware, buying and deploying it, and you run cloud software that basically converts this your data center into a private cloud. So now you have a cloud, but it's running on your machines, in your company, in your home office, or wherever. And then there's hybrid, where some services run in the public cloud and some in private. So you have the best of both worlds. There's things that you might want to run on your own data center and you run those in private, and then there's things that you want to run on a third-party provider and you run those in a public cloud. So there's a hybrid model where you have the best of both worlds. And there's a huge bunch of cloud computing vendors. This diagram actually just shows you the various levels of a cloud stack. You go all the way from there's IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS in the middle, as you can see, the middle three. And then there's higher level services for cloud management and cloud brokerage and cloud marketplace. And then at the lower level, below IaaS, you have cloud platforms and virtualization software and the hardware itself. So you have the hardware at the very bottom. You have software that virtualizes these things and make them become cloud enabled services, and then you have the entire cloud offering, and then higher level services as well. So this is cloud is a very nebulous term, and it's used very liberally, and you can see that there's so many companies providing so many services across the entire stack of cloud. So let's talk a little bit about servers and infrastructure as a service. So website and online service providers need to run server software and servers, and these servers can be made provisioned or available on demand instead of having to pre-configure them. So before IaaS, you need to have these servers set up physically months in advance. You would make orders, you would buy these servers, set them up months in advance. With IaaS, you don't need to do that. Now you have pre-provisioned data centers with the available servers. So you can log into a website, turn on the server with a click of a button, and often pay like pennies or very small amounts of money to rent these servers out for an hour or so as you run them. And then these are the major cloud computing IaaS vendors: Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, IBM, and DigitalOcean. So these are just a few of the big ones out there. Then you have PaaS, which is platform as a service, and then on the right side you can see an image which shows the major PaaS vendors. Google Apps Engine, Microsoft Azure, Heroku, Force.com, Amazon has its own ones. So that's one abstraction level from running your own servers. So it gives you a platform, so you simply deploy the software and run it from the PaaS architecture. At this stage, you don't even need to worry about setting up your server, hardware, etc. You simply register this platform as a service, and you deploy your software there, and the service takes care of scaling up your hardware and anything else that it needs to do. And then there's SaaS. So you're actually running the entire software on someone else's infrastructure. You're running the software and you're simply using it, and you pay a monthly or yearly fee. There's no maintenance or software or hardware work that's required on your end as a customer. You simply use it. And it's probably not a surprise that this is where there are the largest numbers of offerings, since there's just a huge number of software applications out there. You basically need software to do all the things that you need to do. So there's a whole bunch of companies that provide all these services, whether it be, like you can see some of the examples here: point of sale, human resources, enterprise resource planning, customer relationship, accounting. So there's a huge bunch of software applications out there that provide exactly this. So so this is basically what cloud computing is about. And if you ever look into cloud computing or work on this, you'll be working either in the infrastructure side, platform side, or software side. So